My name is Chris Cutter, and for the next 10 minutes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go really deep to talk about what deep down drives me as a person and as an entrepreneur. So in the next 10 minutes, while I'm talking, 16 people are going to commit suicide in this world. 15 people are going to be victims of homicide. 11 are going to be victims of sexual assault. And 41 children, on average, every 10 minutes are going to die from hunger-related diseases. That sucks. In the rich world, it's not quite as horrific, right? But it's pretty bad. 1 in 5 Americans are either clinically anxious or depressed. 1 in 3 Americans are either obese or diabetic or both. 3 in 4 Americans report being lonely when you ask them, and less than half of Americans report being happy. All of this within the context that if you lined up every single human being on Earth and you asked them, hey, what do you ultimately want in your life? What would they say? I'd like to be healthy and happy and fulfilled. We've got a really long way to go. Now, the reason we take this out of our minds is because if you think about it too much and without hope, it can be emotionally crippling, right? And for a time in my own life, it was. But I'll say this, for at least the past 10 years, a single day has also not gone by where I did not 100% believe with no doubt that we can reverse most of human suffering, about 98% of it. And this isn't some vague and mysterious and quixotic belief. I believe the 1,000 or so concrete steps, actionable steps, that we can all take to make sure every person born on this earth is healthy, happy, and fulfilled, they're already scientifically proven at the individual, at the group, and even at the community level in many cases. So all that is left to do is to scale this from the lucky tens of thousands of people to the millions and billions at a national and global scale. The immensity of human suffering and the fact that we can address most of it within 3 generations. These are the 2 gravitational poles at the core of who I am as a person and as an entrepreneur. The moonshot to me is crystal clear. I want us to solve human behavior. Because if Google and Apple can sell billions of iPhones and Androids, just to be fair, and Facebook can reach people on a daily basis with status updates, and people use these things on a daily basis, then we can absolutely reach everybody with a universal human behavior development and change technology and behavioral science system. Now, in 2017, I finally came up with a term that I think covers the worldview that I hold, and I call it evidence-based idealism. And here, let me tell you the story of sort of where it came from, right? So I've been obsessed with the behavioral sciences since I was 14 years old. I had a high school teacher that was teaching psychology and took me under his wing. And despite the fact that I come from multi-generational poverty in a really emotionally complicated home, my obsession led me to get a graduate degree in behavioral economics from one of the top schools. And it was during that time when I was there that I got obsessed both quantitatively and qualitatively. How does a person's biology, psychology, friends, family, culture, gender, economics, how many trees they have outside of their window, all of these variables can actually influence into a very large extent, when in aggregate, can predict a person's health. It can predict a person's thoughts and behaviors. And there's over 400,000 social sciences articles published every single year. So there's really a lot of evidence out there showing this, but I don't think I would believe it as deeply if I didn't see it in my own life, but mostly in my own career, right? So escaping multi-generational poverty, that's not just some mystery or free will or something I can take credit for. There's about 36 variables that I can point to in my environment and in my circles and in my character that led me to this outcome, right? I don't take credit for that. In my work, I was incredibly privileged to work with the Obama administration for most of my 20s in New York City to start a Promise neighborhood in the largest low-income complex in North America, 80,000 people in Western Queens. And though only 1 in 100 children born there will ever graduate from college, and in fact, more people will go to prison than even go to college in that community, and obesity is 46% there. And the mental health ER visit rates are 620% higher than the next neighborhood over. But through over 50 evidence-based interventions that were, get this, co-designed with the community, we were able to turn around those outcomes for tens of thousands of people. I've worked in psychiatric wards with really complex situations. And yes, it took longer to turn around that trajectory, but we absolutely did. I had the privilege of co-founding a social enterprise in Zambia, where we took street children whose both parents had died of HIV and brought them to a residency and intensive life skills program. And their default outcomes, starvation or prison in 93% of cases. In our program, 95% of them were emotionally and financially thriving within 2 years. You can turn the tide. The problem with all these programs, and I've done programs with wealthy Ivy League kids, I've done programs with poor children, I've done programs with all different types of people, but in every single case, it was extremely expensive, right? Over $20,000 per person per year on average for a true complicated evidence-based intervention. And so that's why I, as an entrepreneur, turned to technology. Because you can scale these things 100-fold and reach more people. Now, yes, we have reached hundreds of thousands of people with the technology that I'm currently the co-founder and CEO of, but that's not enough. It's never enough. Because the narrative that I just started this talk with, it's still true every single 10 minutes. And so there's this mantra that I carry around with me that really is at the core of who I am as an entrepreneur. And the term is this: we are better than this. For every poor person on this earth that has 0% chance of escaping poverty, and they believe that it's their fault somehow, we're better than this. For every wealthy person in America who is still empty and lonely inside, and they blame themselves for not being even better, and they sort of see their self-worth as tied to their job and their money, we're better than this. For every obese person that has tried 20, 30 different diets and fads, and none of them work, and guess what? They blame themselves instead of the trillions of dollars of unhealthy food ads and the cycle of emotional eating, which is really complex and they need help with. We are better than this. For every powerful person that feels the need and compulsion to take advantage of other people sexually and emotionally and financially, we are better than this. And for every powerless person whose potential will never be realized, whose dreams will be smashed under the hammer of harsh reality, we are better than this. I'm an entrepreneur because radical disruption is celebrated. And radical disruption is exactly what we need to solve this. K through 12 schools, 12,000 hours are required of every student. Shouldn't 6,000 of those hours be devoted to teaching health and life skills like empathy, critical thinking, self-awareness, healthy relationships? When somebody goes to college, shouldn't they have a life and health skills mentor? When someone goes to a hospital, isn't it obvious that somebody should walk away with a preventive health technology and behavioral science solution to help them have primary prevention so they don't have the catastrophic event or they don't have another one within 3 months? When somebody goes to work, right? Which is the industry we started with. You should have, as part of your benefits, a really effective preventive health intervention. The beauty and excitement, and I think everybody in this room knows this, that in the past 5 or 10 years, the financial incentives for all of those industries that I just named are finally aligned so that they're willing and want to pay for it because the ROI is very clear. And so that's exciting. The barriers to solving this moonshot are a lot lower than they ever used to be. And that's why I really love this gathering today, because we get to talk in a really raw way, hope you don't mind, about moonshots. And I just want to leave you with this. If there was a time in your life when you thought that we could make sweeping changes to the world, and somewhere along the way, you lost that confidence, that belief that we can do it, I hope you walk away today from my talk just thinking the pathway to get there is actually a lot more clear than we think. It's going to take a lot of smart people having the same obsessive passion and confidence that we can do it. And I think everyone in this room today, if we come together, we can. So that's my story, that's my moonshot. Thanks for listening.